Okay, guys, we are back with your Dopia and Coach Trap podcast. This week, me and Dan Williams have a very special guest, Emrah Ikiok, and she's going to tell us all about her amazing course, a little bit more about how she got into coaching, and then we're going to help her. We're going to give her the best opportunity to sell this course, to get the recognition that it deserves. Emrah, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to know a little bit more about you, a little bit more about how you got into the coaching space.
Well, thank you, Greg. It's great to be here. I'm very excited as this is my very first podcast, and I love you guys, you and Dan, and I love Odopia. So it's really exciting. I am, as you said, getting ready to launch my first course with Odopia. So there's lots going on, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to spend some time here with you. Now, to start with about me, I have led a very nonlinear career, if you will. My undergraduate degree is industrial engineering, and I started my career, it seems like a very long time ago now, in manufacturing. I worked for General Motors in US, in Detroit, Michigan, right out of college. And then I went and got my MBA degree from Michigan State University. I went back to GM this time to work on product development teams, forecasting, long term forecasting for future products. So, kind of understanding end to end business in addition to just the manufacturing of vehicles, if you will. And then I made a switch over to Whirlpool and started working in innovation and product development there in the laundry category, building washers and dryers. And that was quite interesting from a category management, product management, and product development perspective because the whole innovation spectrum and the fact that it starts with meeting an unmet customer need and understanding the voice of the customer. That was a very interesting and educational space. After that, I surprisingly and unexpectedly ended up starting a logistics company, a trucking company with my brother, which is now has been 18 years, quite a long time. This grew to be a multi-million dollar successful business running over 50 power units, trailer trucks, over 200 specialty equipment and trailers, build a huge complex and employing over 100 people at one time. And during this time in building the business up, I found that even though initially I was wearing multiple hats and doing different things, as the business started to settle, I found myself spending a lot more time with the people, empowering them, giving them the vision, helping them develop, helping them grow, motivating people. And that's really where coaching started to come in. I'm a lifelong learner. I love to learn. I love to attend courses. So as I started doing coaching, I really wanted to learn the theory, the academics behind it. Where is all this stuff coming from? And at the time, it was the whole coaching as a profession was still fairly young and new. So I went and got my coaching certification degree from Columbia University's Teachers College, which was amazing experience, and it was literally half an MBA in terms of the amount of time you spend, the amount of money you spend, and the length of the program, which was 1 year compared to a 2 year MBA program. Coaching in my mind was always something that I would apply in my business with the people that, in my team. And it would be something that I develop for my retirement, right? In the future. And what ended up happening is through network and as I got my certification and started meeting people, I started coaching clients from outside my business. And I got introduced to London Business School here. By the way, at this time, I was working basically, or I was living both in US and London because we moved to London in 2010 for my then husband, now ex husband's expat assignment with Coast. So I had this multi global presence, traveling a lot back and forth, which is great that I started developing a small network here for coaching. And London Business School came about. I started coaching their MBA students during their orientation week and then along the program which was very insightful and great experience, along with high potential and middle management to senior management leaders from organizations that started reaching out to me. So the way that my coaching has worked is really, or the way I got my clients over time is through these organizations, these companies, their HR and talent development people would reach out to me. They typically would have had done some assessments and conversations with the potential coachee and identified some development areas in their minds. And then I would be brought in to with an engagement of 10 to 12 hours or more to work with this person and in developing themselves professionally and in most cases personally too. So the need for marketing or going through an extensive or intensive marketing effort wasn't really there for me in that sense. So, where I am today, I'm taking less of a part with the business and focusing more on the coaching side of my career now. And that's really what led to me getting involved with Odopia and then meeting you guys. I think Odopia as a platform is a great idea, reaching a more wider base of people to help. And then with what you're doing with your podcast and your marketing strategies, basically outsourcing things to the professionals and the experts. So that's essentially my story in a nutshell. Okay. How I came to coaching, how it's developed, and where I am currently.
Wow. Wow. Emrah, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's an amazing story. Absolutely brilliant. And I can see why so many people are drawn to you and your services. So that leads us on really, really well, doesn't it? Adobe is a great platform. It's definitely going places. It's got more and more eyes on it all the time. What an amazing, amazing project that's going to be in the future. But tell us a little bit more about your course. Tell us a little bit more about who that target client is, who it would fit for best. And then let's give Dan some questions to answer.
Right. So my course is called Think Smart, Mastering the Mindsets That Move You Forward. And it is essentially helping anyone and everyone develop a system for thinking through things. If you ever feel stuck, if you ever feel like you can't make a decision or you question your decisions or your thinking, this is my way of providing a framework where you can actually walk through some steps to help you think. So, what's different about the course is that it's not giving you advice, but it is giving you the means, the education, the know how to think through what you may want to do or what you should do. I came to the topic because this is something that I see across, all the professionals, no matter how senior, junior, or where they are in their life, even MBA students or new graduates with entry level positions. This is something that everybody struggles with. And the more information that we're given, the information age has been great, right? We have so much information. There's so much that's thrown at us. It's not the lack of information that we have, but we do not have a process to think things through, right? And we're in especially uh, more needs of that process now to cut through the clutter, to discern among the information that we have, and to really sit back and think what matters most. So that's how Think Smart came about. And I figured, Odopia is a great platform to launch this on because it can be available to wider audience from any sort of segment, background, age group, because that's what I've experienced everyone struggle with at one point or another. Okay. So that's really where it's coming from. What it is the mindsets that I talk about are critical thinking, creative thinking, and problem solving. Right. So these three, and I feel that we're not really taught how to use these three, when to use them, or what they're really about. In fact, there is a lot of bias around each one. So, for critical thinking, for example, it's confused with overthinking or criticism, right? Self criticism. Whereas it really should not be. It should be about approaching our thoughts and feelings. By the way, even though the course is called Think Smart, there is very much of the emotional side of things and feelings involved in this. So, critical thinking is approaching them with curiosity rather than judgment, right? And that really opens up the space to reflect and to think about, okay, what assumptions am I making here? How do I really feel about this? What are these thoughts going through my mind really about? Is that something that I believe in, or is it something that I've learned or have been instilled at me over time? Is it real? Does it still hold true? So this is really analyzing in a good way those thoughts, those first thoughts that come to your mind. That's critical thinking. Creative thinking is about coming up with ideas, right? And the bias around creative thinking is that an innovative idea has to be this big, bold, shiny, impressive thing. Whereas from my experience with innovation and product development, and as I mentioned, understanding the customer need and client need, really the most effective innovations are simplest things or the simplest steps that are not necessarily this major glowing product, right? And the other thing with creative thinking is we don't allow ourselves enough time and space to come up with a number of ideas, whether they're feasible or not. Not worry about that at the moment, put that aside, but to allow ourselves to be in this dream space where if you didn't have any constraints, what might be some of these ideas that come through, right? So that's other, part about things that hold us back from resorting to creative thinking more. And then there's problem thinking, which essentially is, or the problem solving, which essentially is what we tend to jump into first. Because again, how fast things are developing and the pressure to be able to respond to a question that we've been asked or a problem that's come up that we have to solve. And sometimes, most times, it's about proving yourself, having the loudest voice in the room, or, just essentially showing people that you're thinking, which is all good and great, but it ends up coming up with solutions, great solutions to the wrong problems, right? Because you haven't thought through critically or creatively before coming up with a solution. So, what problem solving really should be is after you've done your critical thinking and creative thinking, and decided on that one option that you want to go with, problem solving is actually creating the plan and the actual steps on how you're going to get this done. So that's the how segment. Now, I know this all sounds like a lot. In explaining it, it is. But once you digest the information and start practicing with a little bit, it can become automatic and habitual, right? So at the very least, my hope is that with the course, people will learn to pause before jumping into solving any and all problems, or they will not be stuck in this hopeless overthinking, overanalyzing, what am I going to do about this space? Think Smart course is giving you the framework and the tools so you'll be fine. You will know what to do about it. Initially, it may take a little practice, it may not be as comfortable, but the more you basically work that muscle, the stronger it's going to get.
Okay, that's great. Emrah, thank you so much for that. Now, Dan, this is where I give you the floor, isn't it? Is there any questions that you've got for Emrah for her course? Any specific tips that you think you could give her?
Yeah, well, Emma, that was a brilliant story, and I wouldn't have known any of that if I hadn't come on the podcast with you. Which is what I've seen a big theme with a lot of coaches who are, you look at their social media and you think, yeah, they're probably good coaches, but then they come on the podcast and you think, wow, that's like a really cool story, and they could be absolutely dominating their niche if they shared that a little bit more. So I'd love to know what's been the problem for you with sharing that story, maybe on your social media, or maybe do you think it's not really right for you? It's not worth it. What do you think?
I absolutely think that it's worth it. I have not shared it because I basically don't have that social media presence, to be honest with you. I have my LinkedIn profile, and that's my only professional profile. For my coaching business, I had branded it at one point to call it Think Pattern. I did have a website, but again, I didn't have the time and the resources to maintain all of that on my own. And the cost of outsourcing that to professionals, it wasn't justified initially with the my revenue, the money I was making from coaching. So, you know, I tell everyone who wants to get into coaching that it's great. It's a great profession, but don't quit your day job because it takes a while for you to get to a point. And really, it comes with time and experience and the tools that you develop. And, with every client that you meet, that's the distinction with coaching is that as much as I help my clients, they help me. They teach me things too. So I learned something from every client. So the marketing side of things have been weak at best.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't like to share this story. I do. Trying to share that within my own means within LinkedIn. I think it's a lot of information. Again, there is a lot of noise out there to be able to cut through all of that and to come to forefront. And in case you haven't noticed, I have a hard time summarizing too. So it's not as easy to get 30 years of experience and how things have happened into a few seconds. So
Yeah. Well, if I was you, what I would start with is you said that you don't want to share your story because you haven't really got the social media presence. I would start making that social media presence. So what that is see, say if you're on a call with a client and you solve a problem and they say that was a really good solution. I like that. I'm going to use that. Share that on LinkedIn, share that on whatever platform you want to share it on. Just a little post about the client, their context, and kind of what problem you solved for them. What that's going to do is attract other people like that client to your profile. They're going to start trusting you a little bit more. They're going to start like associating you with the solution to the problem that you solve. And then you can go deeper in with the story that you've just showed us potentially on YouTube, on LinkedIn. These videos do really well in a lot of places. And that's going to build that trust even further. That's going to get people to reach out to you. And that's kind of how social media presence is built. You can't really be a perfectionist with it. Like I posted for a good 6 months with very little traction, very little people reaching out, whatever. But obviously I persisted with it and I kept learning, kept growing, kept helping a few people and then a few more people and then a lot more people. And it kind of grows from there. So that would be my biggest advice for you at the moment is to just take that leap, get yourself out there because you've got a really cool story and it's almost changing that mindset from I don't want to take up space on the timeline to I want to help people with my story, with whatever solutions I'm giving to my clients. I want to help them. I want to help other people as well. So yeah, that's the mindset I would come into it with.
I think that's a really good point, Dan. One thing I noticed that both of you both said something really similar. Emma talked about not giving up your day job. Dan, you talked about not having any traction after 6 months. I told you both before we come on that, people that me and Dan have known in this business for maybe a year or so have given up. Lots of people come and go. But there is similarities, Dan, isn't there, between coaches that make it, marketers that make it, freelancers who making it. And it's not just being consistent, isn't it? It's resonating with people, actually solving a problem. And actually, with that amazing story you've got, Emrah, and it is amazing. And I've got to know you quite a lot over the last 6 months, but I didn't even know aspects of that story. Imagine the light bulb moment that has for people, and that's why not just having LinkedIn, but having X, Instagram, TikTok, Substack, a newsletter is so vitally important, Dan, isn't it? And Dan, that probably comes back to you. We talked about Emma just being on LinkedIn, but could that message be put out even better? Could it reach an even greater audience on a different sort of platform?
It absolutely could. I know, Emma, you said you haven't got much time to make content or to help people with this stuff. But if you're going to do one platform, it's going to take you maybe 10% more time to do five more platforms. And you're going to get potentially five times the results. So it's almost the best ROI you can get. So we use a tool called Opus Clips. I don't know if you've heard of it,
Mm,
where we turn this podcast into clips, basically, which we
mhm.
post on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, which people are probably listening to now because that's where we get most of our views from. It
Okay.
takes us literally 10 minutes to get all these clips, about 30 clips from each podcast on Opus Clips, which is just a stupid good investment of time, in my opinion, to help a lot more people. And not just on LinkedIn, but also different platforms. Different types of people you'll find are on different platforms. And potentially you said you wanted to help a wide range of people with those broad skills that you've got, and that's going to allow you to do that repurposing content on a lot of platforms. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah, you go. Emrah, I'll tell you one other tip that me and Dan use. So if I send Dan one X long form message, we repurpose it, Dan, don't we, on LinkedIn, Substack, newsletter, LinkedIn message. It just goes out. It's one message can be repurposed 6 or 7 times. And because we realized that before people want to buy, they want to see you at least 6 to 8 times, if that makes sense. So actually, like in terms of creating one bit of content, doesn't take me that long. I think I can create 30 videos and 5 videos in 20 minutes. I think I made 10 long form messages in 2 hours on a flight the other day. And that's a month's worth of content for me in less than 2.5 hours, if that makes sense. So it's about the more you do it, the better you get. You realize that one message can be repurposed, edited, changed many, many times. And I think, Emma, it's such a powerful message you got. I think people would be really enlightened. I think people would resonate massively with some of the stuff that you're saying and the experience that you've got. Probably a question I've got for you, Emma, is do you worry about, like work colleagues? Do you worry about friends? Do you worry about other people seeing you in this space? Because we find that as well, Dan. Lots of coaches worry about what their friends, family, peers, work colleagues think. Do you find something similar, or are you quite happy just putting it all out there?
No, not at all. I'm not one of those coaches. I am more than happy. I share my coaching identity and experience with friends, family, professional network. I'm not concerned about that at all. I would actually like more of it. So I've already shared with some friends that I'm doing a podcast today. And a lot of people already know about my course and waiting for it to launch, which is going to be in a few days here. So, no, it is not about that. For me, really, it's about learning and understanding these other platforms too. And which is why I love, you guys and the millennial generation in general. So I realize I'm aging myself here, but I'm in kind of the tail end of the Gen Xers. And the way that my career and professional life evolved, we haven't yet quite caught up. So I'm still learning and understanding how some of these platforms actually work, whereas you guys are all brilliant about it. So for me, it's always been putting together the the most effective, useful, and practical content, which is a big sort of a learning point creating the course. Because with my clients, I'm always in a two-way dialogue, right? And the course is an audio course. It's delivering the content, the material, frameworks, ideas, examples one way. So, that's been interesting. And I'm looking forward to seeing the response to that, how well it works. I think one of the things that Coach Trap is also maybe uniquely positioned for is for us coaches. Like I said, the way the coaching system has worked for us so far, we walk into coaching engagements having an idea at least of what's going to be worked on. Now that's been a lot of things over the years with a lot of different clients, but to open all that experience to the larger volume, the larger population, it would be great to know what resonates with people. What types of things are most important, or what types of issues or problems are people looking to get coaching on, get some understanding of. So then it's actually a lot easier to go back to my experience, my knowledge base, my research, and pull that together into content that's going to be useful. I feel that right now, especially with the advent of AI helping us be more productive, there is a lot more of snippets of information and AI coaching, what's called AI coaching that's out there that can be pretty confusing. I think, hopefully it would be great to have that feedback and provide what really makes an impact, a positive contribution to everyone.
Yeah, what was really
Absolutely.
interesting
Good
there that I
answer.
want to pick up on is you said you're kind of Gen X, and obviously a lot of people in that generation don't really use social media, which is completely right, and that is your big advantage. I would say I would be really all in on that. I would be thinking, well, if I've got this much experience and I could use social media to kind of amplify that and get more eyeballs on all that experience, you're going to really just blow everyone else away, all the younger people who haven't got as much experience. And it's really going to be a massive advantage for you. But I always think of it as kind of two different numbers. So you've got the coaching number and the marketing number. So let's say you're a 10 out of 10 coach, but you're doing 1 out of 10 marketing. 10 times 1 is 10. But if you're a 5 out of 10 coach, so an average coach, and you're a 5 out of 10 marketer, so you've done a little bit of marketing, but you're not like massively like clued up on it. 5 times 5 is 25. So you're getting double the great coach who's not doing much marketing, if that makes sense. That's how I like to think of it. And obviously, if you could be a 10 out of 10 coach with 7 out of 10 marketing, that's putting you in a really good position. And that's how I like to think of it. Yeah.
That's a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Dan, that's awesome. One other thing I'd like to say as well, the difference between, yeah, a really good way of looking at it. A really good way of looking at it. One other really interesting thing I'd like to say, the difference between AI coaching and coaching, the difference between using AI in your marketing to being yourself is AI doesn't have intuition, by the way. It doesn't go out and hunt. It doesn't need to earn money. And I think that's where actually like marketing is important. And I don't think it's the most important thing. I think DM strategy is. I think it's actually interacting with people, having that space in between marketing to signing them. And I think lots of coaches miss out on that because that's how you turn this into a full-time business, if that makes sense. And that's something that AI can't do for you. So if we have people reach out to me, Dan, and say, oh, do you want to automate AI into your system in terms of chatbots? And this, I would say, no, 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 that will lose us money because the skill is in that conversation. It's in that moment between, meeting them with marketing towards signing them. That DM strategy is absolutely crucial. Dan, anything else you want to say before we end it for today?
I was just thinking, I wrote down a couple of potential content angles that you could come up with, Emma, for LinkedIn or whatever platform you decide on. I've got a couple of things here. So you've got case studies or stories showing, how faulty thinking leads to millions in losses, which is obviously that's gonna scare quite a few people, and that's gonna be a little bit more resonating. Like you said, you want to resonate with people, with the right people, of course. Frameworks such as executives love diagrams, so you could build your own 2 by 2 framework, like an Eisenhower matrix. I know Greg loves that for decision making, something like that, and then share them as LinkedIn carousels, which would really go down well. But I think for you, you're obviously one of the best coaches out there, so you don't need to worry too much about the wording and stuff like this or the marketing. What you need to do is just get yourself out there to start with, and then you can focus on optimizing stuff. Because if people don't know who you are, it doesn't matter how long you try and study which words do best or whatever. It's really about first getting yourself in front of them and showing them that you're good at what you do and you can help them with their problems.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you both. This has been
Amazing
very
stuff.
helpful and some great ideas, a lot of learning. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emrah. Thanks very much, Dan. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on the Coach Trap podcast. Next week, we have Craig Drake. And then after that, Dan, we've got some other really exciting guests coming on. And remember, whatever you do, don't fall into the coach trap.